The alien jungle was alive with strange sounds, whispers of leaves, and glowing insects that floated like sparks in the dark. The air was heavy, wet, and smelled of wildflowers mixed with decay. A single voice cut through the night, thin and trembling. It was not the cry of an animal. It was the cry of a child, the human. A traveler with a worn jacket and tired boots froze in his steps. He had been walking along the narrow path, searching for a safe place to camp. His ears caught the sound again, soft at first, then sharp, a wail of fear and loneliness. His heart beat faster. In a jungle full of predators, a cry like that was dangerous. It meant someone was in trouble or being hunted. He stood still, listening. The cry came again, carried by the damp wind. His eyes scanned the trees, tall and twisted with glowing veins. Their shadows moved like ghosts. Somewhere ahead, hidden in the thick brush, the voice trembled again. The sound was weak, fragile, like it was fading. He thought for a moment. Should he ignore it and walk away? It could be a trap. There were stories about strange creatures that lured travelers with fake cries. He took a slow breath. His instincts told him this was different. There was pain in that voice, a real pain, the kind only the lost carried carefully. He stepped off the path and pushed through the plants. The leaves were sharp and wet, sticking to his arms. Every step was louder than he wanted. His boots sank into the soft earth. His eyes kept darting to the glowing eyes watching him from the shadows. Beasts with low growls circled but did not attack yet. Then he saw her, a small figure crouched at the base of a tree. Her body shook with sobs, her skin faintly glowed. Pale blue under the moonlight, her hair was tangled with leaves. Her hands were thin, clutching her knees. She looked tiny, no more than a child. Her eyes, large and bright, streamed with tears. The human's breath caught. She was not just any alien. She was frail, almost too weak to move. She cried into the night, unaware he was there. Her voice broke with fear, a soft please, please, in a language he could barely understand. But he was not the only one who heard. The bushes behind her rustled. Heavy footsteps pressed the ground, low snarls echoed closer. Dark shapes slithered between the glowing vines. The predators of the jungle had found her. The human's pulse raced. If he moved forward, he would reveal himself. If he stayed still, she would be taken. He clenched his fists. His mind flashed with memories of Earth, of lost children in ruined towns, of voices crying when no one answered. He could not leave her. He crouched low, scanning the ground. A broken branch lay near his feet. He picked it up, testing its weight, not much, but enough to distract. He looked at the glowing eyes in the brush. They were waiting for the small alien girl to stop crying, waiting to strike. The girl suddenly gasped. She sensed them too. Her small body curled tighter. Her cries turned into frightened whimpers. She whispered to herself, rocking, as if hoping someone, anyone, would come. The human stepped forward. His voice was low, steady. Don't move, he said. Though she likely did not understand, his words made her head snap up. Her glowing eyes widened at the sight of him. For a second, she stopped crying. Behind her, a beast lunged. Its teeth shone in the moonlight. The human swung the branch with all his strength. The crack echoed through the trees. The beast yelped, retreating into the shadows. The others growled, confused. The girl stared at him, trembling. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. She clutched the tree bark as if it could protect her. He moved closer, his hand raised in peace. It's all right, he said. I won't hurt you. But the jungle did not rest. The growls grew louder, circling. The predators were not gone, not yet. The human's eyes narrowed. He knew this was only the beginning. The girl was too weak to run. The beasts were too many. And he was only one man with nothing but his wits. Still he stood tall, his gaze fixed on the shadows. His jaw set somewhere deep inside. He had already made his choice. He would not walk away. The girl's cry had led him here, and now her life was in his hands. The jungle roared with danger. The night pressed close, and the human took his first step into a story that would change both of them forever. The jungle was not silent. It was alive with growls and whispers, glowing eyes watching from every corner. The human stood between the tiny alien girl and the shadows, his grip tight on the broken branch. His heart pounded like a drum. The girl's tears shimmered on her pale cheeks. She looked at him with fear and hope mixed together. Her small body shook as if she could break apart at any moment. Behind her, the beasts circled, waiting for the right time to strike.
He knew he had to decide. He could turn away now,
slip back into the thick forest, Pretend he never heard her cry. It would be easy, safer. The girl was not his responsibility, but as he stared into her wide, glowing eyes, he felt something shift inside him. Memories rose like ghosts, memories of Earth, burned villages, children abandoned in ruins, voices begging for help when no one came. He had promised himself he would never walk away from that sound again. The sound of a child crying, the predators stepped closer. Their low growls shook the ground. The human took one step forward, placing himself fully between the beasts and the girl. His voice came out steady, though his chest was tight. "Stay behind me," he said, not caring if she understood. The beasts lunged. Their bodies were long and dark, with claws that cut the earth. Their mouths dripped with glowing saliva. The human swung his branch. Sparks of pain shot up his arm as wood cracked against bone. The beast yelped, pulling back. Another darted from the side, but he shifted quickly, jabbing its snout. The girl let out a frightened gasp. Her hands gripped his jacket. She pressed her face into his back, trembling as the fight raged. The human knew the branch would not last long. The predators were testing him, circling, learning. He had seen this before. Packs always waited for weakness. They would strike together once they thought he was tired. He scanned the ground, his mind raced. He spotted a cluster of vines with sharp thorns. His hand reached out, yanking one free. He swung it wide. The beast flinched back, snarling. They had learned the sting of those thorns before. The girl whispered something. Her voice shaking, it sounded like a warning. Her language was broken to him, but one word stood clear. Hunters. His eyes narrowed. Hunters? That meant more danger than just beasts. Still, he could not ask questions now. The predators paced. But for the moment, they did not strike. He looked down at the girl, her glowing eyes filled with tears. Her lips trembled. She was waiting for his choice, waiting to see if he would leave her behind like the others. He crouched down for a moment, meeting her gaze. "I'm not leaving you," he said softly. She blinked, confused, but his tone reached her heart. She grabbed his arm tightly as if afraid he would vanish. The human stood tall again. He knew what had to be done. They could not stay here. The beasts would not give up. The jungle was closing in. He had to move her, find a safer path. He motioned to her, pointing away from the danger. "Come," he said, then pulled her gently forward. At first, her legs refused. She stumbled, too weak. He lifted her into his arms. Her body was so light it felt like carrying a bundle of sticks. She pressed her face against his chest, whispering in broken words, but her tears slowly eased. He pushed through the jungle, every sense alert. The cries of the predators followed. Angry and hungry, branches snapped under his boots. Glowing insects scattered in swarms. The vines pulled at his jacket. But he did not stop. The girl stirred. She tried to speak again. Her voice was hoarse. "Cursed," she whispered. "They left me." Her words broke off as she coughed. The human's jaw tightened. Her people abandoned her, called her cursed, left her here to die. A spark of anger burned in his chest. He looked down at her fragile frame and shook his head. "Not anymore," he said. Almost to himself, behind them, the beasts howled, frustrated at losing their prey. But the human kept moving. He had made his choice. The jungle was dangerous, the night full of threats. But for the tiny alien girl who had cried alone, one thing had changed forever. She was not alone anymore, and the human, though he did not know it yet, had stepped onto a path that would bind their fates together. The jungle grew quieter as the human carried the tiny alien girl deeper into the forest. The growls of the beasts faded, but the silence felt heavy. Each step sank into soft earth, leaves brushing his arms like warning hands. The girl clung to him tightly, her small fingers pressed into his jacket. She was trembling. Her glowing skin gave off a faint light, just enough to show the fear in her wide eyes. She looked weak, fragile, as if the jungle itself could break her at any moment. The human adjusted his grip. She was so light he could barely feel her weight, but he could feel her fear. He stopped beneath a tree with broad leaves. Placing her gently on the ground, she curled up instantly, hugging her knees. Her hair was tangled. Dirt streaked her cheeks. Her breaths came fast and shallow. He knelt in front of her, his voice calm. "You're safe now," he said. Though he knew safety was not guaranteed here, she lifted her head slowly. Her lips moved, words forming in her broken language. Why help? The question struck him. Her voice was thin, cracked with tears. She did not understand kindness. She did not expect rescue. She expected to be abandoned. He searched for words she might understand. "Because you cried," he said simply. "I heard you." Her eyes glistened. Tears welled again. She looked at him with disbelief, as if his answer made no sense. A rustle from the bushes made him turn quickly. His hand tightened on the branch. The jungle always watched, always hunted. The girl flinched at the sound. Shrinking smaller, her whole body shook. She whispered, "They come back." He crouched low, scanning the trees. The beasts were not near. But the jungle gave no promise. He looked back at her. She was not just afraid of predators. There was something more, something deeper. He reached into his small pack, pulling out a flask. He opened it and offered it to her. She stared at it like it was poison. Her lips trembled. "Trap," she whispered. He shook his head. He took a sip first, showing her. Then he held it out again. Slowly, her thin hand reached forward. She took it, drank, and coughed. Water spilled down her chin, but for the first time, a faint relief softened her face. The human studied her. She was not just lost, she was abandoned. Her body carried marks, small scars on her arms, dirt pressed into cuts that were never cleaned. Her clothes were torn, like no one had cared for her in a long time. He asked softly, "What's your name?" She tilted her head, confused. He pointed to himself. "Human," he said, then pointed at her. She hesitated, then whispered, "Lyra." The name floated in the air like a fragile secret. She was more than a stranger now. She was someone. Lyra tried to stand. Her legs shook under her. She stumbled, almost falling. The human caught her arm quickly. Her eyes darted up to his, startled. For a moment she froze, then slowly she leaned against him, her body too weak to hold itself steady. He realized then just how fragile she truly was. She was like glass. Any wrong step and she would shatter. She whispered again, voice broken, "They left me. Cursed, no family, no home." Her words cracked into sobs. She pressed her face into his chest, hiding. Her tears soaked his jacket. The human's chest tightened. He put a hand on her back. He did not know how to comfort an alien child abandoned by her own, but he knew what it felt like to be alone. "You're not cursed," he said firmly. "You're alive." That's enough. The jungle around them stirred. As if listening, the shadows moved, glowing insects swirled above. Lyra pulled back slightly, her glowing eyes fixed on him. She whispered, "Stay, please." He nodded without hesitation. "I'm not going anywhere." But even as he said it, he heard distant noises, heavy footsteps. Not beasts this time, something larger, stronger. Moving through the forest, Lyra's eyes widened with terror. She grabbed his arm tighter, whispering one word with trembling lips. "Hunters." The human looked into the dark trees, his jaw clenched. The predators of the jungle were dangerous. But the hunters, whoever they were, sounded far worse. He looked down at the fragile girl beside him, her body shaking, her voice begging, and he knew his choice was already made. She was not just a stranger anymore. She was Lyra, and he had promised he would protect her, even if the whole jungle came against him. The jungle pressed close around them, thick vines twisting like snakes and glowing fungi lighting the shadows. The human tightened his grip on Lyra's arm. Keeping her close, her small body trembled with each sound. Each step she took was weak, her legs barely holding her weight. Behind them, the forest growled. The predators were still there, but they kept their distance, watching from the dark. The greater danger came from the other sound, the steady rhythm of heavy steps. Not claws, not beasts, but hunters. The human scanned the trees. His sharp eyes caught a narrow gap between giant roots. "This way," he whispered, though Lyra could hardly understand. She nodded weakly, trusting him. The ground was uneven, slippery with moss. Each step was a risk. Lyra stumbled more than once. Her glowing eyes filled with panic every time, but the human caught her before she fell. He slowed his pace, adjusting to her weakness. His mind calculated paths the way a soldier calculated survival. The forest gave him options, but each came with danger. To the left, glowing swamps, dangerous but maybe useful to lose their pursuers. To the right, thick thorned vines that could cut skin. Straight ahead, cliffs and high rocks, a risky climb. He chose the rocks. Higher ground meant a chance to see, a chance to plan. He carried Lyra when her legs gave up. Her head rested against his shoulder. Her breath shallow. The climb was not easy. The rocks were wet, slick from mist. His boots slipped, but his hands were steady. He pulled both their weights upward, muscles straining below. He heard the rustle of hunters moving closer. The sound of metal clinking against stone confirmed it. They were armed. Lyra stirred, whispering, "Not safe." They find us." Her voice was barely air, but her fear was real. She looked up at him with pleading eyes. The human met her gaze. "We'll keep moving," he said firmly. "We don't stop." His tone carried strength, and though she did not understand all his words, she understood his promise. At the top of the rocks, the view spread out. The jungle was endless, glowing rivers snaking through the land. Dark shapes moved along the water. Hunters searching, beasts prowled in the shadows. He realized they were trapped between two dangers, nature and people. Lyra tugged his sleeve, pointing with a shaky hand far in the distance. Smoke rose thin and pale, a sign of fire, maybe safety, or maybe another trap, but in her eyes there was hope. He hesitated. The path to the smoke would take them deeper into unknown territory, but staying here meant death. The hunters were closing in, already spreading in groups. "All right," he said, his voice steady. He adjusted his grip on her hand and started down the rocks. The path twisted into a narrow trail, roots hanging low, glowing insects darting around them. Lyra stumbled again. But this time she forced herself forward. She bit her lip, tears in her eyes. But she did not let go of his hand. Suddenly, the forest floor shifted beneath them. A hidden pit yawned open, lined with spikes. The human reacted fast, pulling Lyra back just in time. The trap was not for beasts. It was for people. His eyes narrowed. The hunters had set snares. He whispered, "They know we're here." The jungle gave no mercy. The hunters were close, the predators restless. Yet the human kept guiding her. His steps were careful, his senses sharp. He led her through a path of twisted vines. He cut some with his knife, making a way where none existed. The sound of the hunters grew louder. Voices echoed in a tongue Lyra understood. She froze, clutching his sleeve, whispering, My people, left me. Kill me." Her tears glistened. The human put a hand on her shoulder. "Not while I'm here," he said firmly. His eyes burned with quiet fire. They pushed forward, breaking through a wall of thick branches. Ahead, the faint glow of smoke flickered stronger. The smell of fire mixed with the jungle's damp air. They were close, but the footsteps behind were even closer. The human quickened his pace. Pulling Lyra along, she stumbled, but she refused to let go. Her fragile strength fed on his determination. The escape path was dangerous, but it was theirs. And though the jungle and the hunters both pressed closer, the human knew one thing clearly. He would not let this fragile girl fall. For her, he would carve a path through the wild itself. The smell of smoke grew stronger as the human pushed forward. Guiding Lyra through the narrow path, her steps dragged, her glowing eyes heavy with fear and exhaustion. Yet she clung to his sleeve, refusing to let go. The jungle whispered around them, branches swaying though no wind blew. Every sound carried weight, every shadow a threat. The human's ears caught it before Lyra did. The crunch of footsteps, steady, organized, not the random noise of beasts. He froze, raising a hand for silence. Lyra pressed closer to him. Her breath caught in her throat, then the voices came, sharp and commanding in a tongue she understood. She shivered as if the words cut her. Through the trees, they appeared hunters, their bodies tall, armored in dark plates carved with strange markings. Their helmets glowed faintly. Weapons long and sharp in their hands, they moved with purpose, spreading out like predators who knew their prey had no escape. Lyra's eyes widened. She pulled at the human's jacket, whispering, "My people, hunters, curse me. Take me." Her voice cracked, fear spilling out with every word. The human's jaw clenched. He stepped forward, placing himself fully between her and the advancing hunters. His grip tightened around the broken branch he still carried. It wasn't much, but his stance was unshakable. One of the hunters stopped, lifting his weapon high. His voice boomed, "Human, step aside." Though the human barely understood the words, the meaning was clear. They wanted the girl. Lyra shook her head violently, tears sliding down her cheeks.
She clutched the human's arm, whispering, "Please."
"Don't let them take me." The hunters raised their weapons higher. Their eyes glowed like cold fire behind their helmets. "She is cursed," one growled. "She brings only death. Leave her or join her fate." The human's heart pounded. But his voice was steady. "No," he said, short and sharp. The hunters tilted their heads, surprised by his refusal. A ripple of dark laughter spread among them. To them, he was only one man. Fragile and foolish, but the human stood firm. His eyes narrowed, his muscles tensed. He had made his decision long ago. When he heard Lyra's cry in the jungle, the hunters moved forward slowly, circling like wolves. Their boots crushed the glowing plants beneath them. The jungle itself seemed to lean away from their presence. Lyra hid behind the human, pressing her face into his back. Her sobs muffled against him. She was shaking so badly she could barely stand. Her people had abandoned her, called her cursed. Now they had returned only to finish what they started. The human scanned their movements. His soldier's mind calculated angles. He saw how they spread to trap him. He saw where the trees bent low enough to hide snares. He saw the arrogance in their steps, the way they underestimated him. He whispered softly, only for Lyra, "Stay low. Hold on." The leader of the hunters raised his weapon, a long blade that shimmered with alien light. His voice carried judgment. "Step aside, human. This is not your fight." The human's grip tightened. His voice cut back. "It is now." For a heartbeat, silence hung. The jungle itself seemed to wait. Then the hunter struck. The first lunged with speed, his blade cutting the air. The human sidestepped, swinging the branch hard. It cracked against the hunter's helmet. Sparks flying. The alien staggered back with a snarl. Two more rushed from the side. The human grabbed a vine, pulling it down sharply. The thorned plant snapped free and lashed across their armor, forcing them to stumble. Lyra gasped but held tight, watching in awe. The hunters growled, angered. They had expected an easy victory, but the human fought with strange tricks, earthborn instincts they did not understand. Still more pressed forward, their weapons glowing, their steps relentless. The human's chest rose and fell with heavy breaths. His mind raced. He was only one man, but he refused to step aside. He stood tall in front of Lyra, his shadow shielding her. She looked up at him, tears in her glowing eyes. For the first time, her fear mixed with something else, hope. The hunters closed in, surrounding them. The jungle echoed with tension, the air heavy with the promise of violence. The human's stance did not falter. His voice came out like iron. "If you want her, you'll have to go through me, and with that..." The standoff turned into a storm. The jungle became their battlefield. The girl's fate balanced on the courage of one human. The hunters surrounded them, their armor glowing faintly under the jungle's strange light. Their weapons gleamed sharp and deadly. Lyra's trembling hand clutched the human's sleeve. Her body pressed close to him, she whispered in fear, "Too many. You can't..." But the human's jaw tightened. His eyes scanned the enemies with calm precision. He had faced worse before, back on Earth. Battles where he stood alone against impossible odds. He knew fear, but he never let it control him. The first hunter stepped forward, blade raised high. His voice rang cold. "Human, you die here." The strike came fast. But the human was faster. He sidestepped, grabbing a thick vine from the tree beside him. With one swift pull, he sent the hunter crashing into the roots below. The alien roared in pain, stunned. Two more charged, their movements sharp and practiced. The human bent low, grabbing a handful of dirt. He threw it into their glowing eyes. They stumbled, blinded. One swung wildly, cutting into a tree instead. The other tripped over exposed roots. Lyra gasped, eyes wide. She had never seen anyone fight like this. He wasn't stronger than the hunters. He wasn't armored like them, but he was clever, using the jungle itself as his ally. The hunters regrouped quickly. Circling again, their leader growled, "Tricks won't save you, human." His blade shimmered with energy. The ground shook as he stepped closer. The human's breath was heavy. His body ached from the struggle, but he stood tall, planting himself between the girl and her pursuers. His voice was steady. "She's not yours to take," the hunters sneered, their laughter cruel. "She is cursed," one hissed. "Her life is nothing." Lyra flinched at the words. Her tears fell. She hid her face in the human's back, but he only stood firmer. "If her life means nothing to you," he said, "then it means everything to me." The leader snarled and rushed forward. His blade sliced the air toward the human's chest. At the last second, the human ducked, rolling aside. His hand grabbed a fallen branch. Heavier than the last, he swung with all his strength. The crack echoed as wood met armor. The leader staggered, but did not fall. The others advanced. The human knew he could not fight them all head-on. His mind raced. He spotted thick vines overhead, their roots holding stones in place. With a sharp throw, he hurled the branch at the vines. The weight snapped them loose. Rocks tumbled down, crashing onto two hunters, pinning them beneath. Lyra gasped again. Hope flickering in her glowing eyes, she whispered, You can win." The human didn't answer. His focus was razor sharp. Sweat dripped down his face. Every move was survival, every breath a decision. But the leader rose again, fury blazing in his glowing eyes. His blade hummed with energy. He lunged with renewed rage. The human barely blocked, the impact shaking his arm. Sparks flew as the weapon cut into the branch. Slicing it in half, the human staggered back. His weapon broken, the leader smirked, raising the blade for the final strike. But before the blade could fall, the human grabbed a handful of thorns from the ground and shoved them into the leader's exposed joints. The alien roared in pain, stumbling back, dropping his weapon. The jungle echoed with the sound. The other hunters hesitated, shocked that their leader had been hurt by a simple human. The human picked up the fallen blade, heavy and alien, in his hands. He raised it toward the circle of enemies. His voice thundered, "You will not take her." For the first time, the hunters stepped back. Their eyes flickered with uncertainty. They saw not just a fragile outsider, but a warrior standing unbroken. Lyra's tears streamed, but her lips curved into the faintest smile. She whispered softly, "My protector." The human stood tall, the alien blade glowing in his grip. Around him, the hunters hesitated, their leader wounded, their confidence shaken. The jungle held its breath. The human had made his stand, and in that moment, even the cursed girl believed he could not be defeated. The jungle was quiet again, but the silence was heavy. The hunters stood at a distance, their leader clutching his wounded arm. His glowing eyes burned with anger, yet also with fear. They had seen something they did not expect, a single human who stood against them. The human tightened his grip on the alien blade. Its weight was strange in his hand, but his stance was strong. Sweat dripped down his face. His chest rose and fell with each hard breath. He was tired, but his will had not broken. Lyra stood behind him, her glowing eyes wide. Her tiny hands clutched his torn jacket. Her body trembled, but not only with fear anymore, there was awe in her gaze. For the first time in her life, someone had chosen to protect her. The leader of the hunters snarled, his voice sharp, "This is not over, human. She is cursed. Her life will bring death to you." He raised his hand, signaling his group. But instead of attacking, the hunters slowly backed away. Their pride was wounded, their confidence shaken. The human didn't lower the blade until the last shadow of armor disappeared into the thick jungle. Only then did he let out a heavy breath. His knees bent as exhaustion pressed against him. But he stayed on his feet. Lyra stepped closer, her voice soft, trembling. "You saved me." Her words were broken, but the meaning was clear. The human turned, looking down at her. Her glowing skin was streaked with dirt and tears, her small body fragile like glass. He nodded once. "You're safe now," he said. His voice was steady. Though his heart still raced, she shook her head, her tears falling again. "Not safe, never safe," she whispered. "My people. They hate me. Curse me." Her voice cracked into sobs. Her small frame shook as if the weight of those words was too heavy to carry. The human knelt in front of her, placing a hand on her thin shoulder. "Listen," he said firmly, his eyes locked with hers. "You are not cursed, you are alive, and as long as I'm here, you are not alone." Her lips parted, her glowing eyes filled with something new. Hope, a word she had forgotten. Her hands clutched his, holding tight. "Don't leave me," she whispered. He shook his head. "I won't." His voice was quiet, but it carried the strength of a vow. The jungle shifted, the danger not gone, but for now distant. The human looked at the faint smoke rising in the far distance. Perhaps a camp, perhaps shelter. He stood, helping Lyra to her feet. Her legs were weak, but she leaned against him, step by step. Together they walked through the glowing forest. Each rustle of leaves still made her flinch, but every time his steady presence calmed her. She had cried alone once, lost and broken, but now she had someone who listened. Hours passed as they moved slowly. The jungle thinned, and at last they reached a clearing. The sky above opened, stars shining bright. Lyra's glowing eyes reflected the starlight. She looked up, whispering, "Beautiful." The human smiled faintly. For the first time that night, he allowed himself to breathe. The stars were a reminder. No matter how dark the forest, there was always light beyond. Lyra turned to him, her voice soft. Why help me?" He paused, his eyes on the stars, then looked back at her. "Because no one should cry alone," he said. Her lips trembled, but this time it was not only sadness. A small smile formed, fragile but real. She whispered her name again. Lyra, as if offering it to him fully. Not as a cursed child, but as herself, he nodded. Lyra, he repeated, making her name strong. Then he pointed to himself. Human, she nodded slowly, her smile growing a little for the first time. She felt she belonged somewhere, not to a tribe that abandoned her, but to the bond she had now. The night air was cool, the stars endless. The danger of the jungle was still there, but so was something stronger. Between the fragile alien girl and the stubborn human, a bond had been formed. A bond not of blood or tribe, but of choice. And as they walked forward together, the jungle behind them and the unknown ahead, one thing was certain. Her cry had led him to her, and his promise would keep her safe. From that moment on, Lyra was no longer cursed. She was no longer alone, she was his to protect, and he was hers to trust. A fragile stranger had become something more. A new bond had begun, one that even the jungle itself could not break.